step, dives up, deep ball. Oh, what a catch! On the move, lets it fly. Oh, Terence! Oh, what a catch! Seconds now. Patterson splits it. Goodbye. Looking, firing, end zone. Oh, what a catch by it! He's in bounds. He's going. 130, 20, will score. Taking a tackle and taking it past midfield. An opening kickoff return. Jacob with running room right up the middle. Jacob is on his way. The Raiders are going to win this game.
What's going on,
What's up,
everybody? Welcome
Go
in,
ahead,
welcome
Dante. I'm
in.
just putting the schedule together.
No problem. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Dante,
What's up, everybody? I'm Shawnee.
and this is the One on One Sports Show. And as you can tell from the thumbnail, we're gonna we're gonna go ahead and recap. I mean, I mean, you can recap it in 10 seconds, but we'll give it a little bit more nuance than that about the big fight this weekend between Errol Spence and now unanimous 4 belts, Terrence Bud Crawford, who deserves all his respect. I mean, we said it last week. I want to say it was a few votes for Bud, but it was a good amount of votes for Bud. It was a few for Spence. I know myself. I thought it was a fighter. It might go the distance, but my goodness, it did not. You could tell early on, and then like from some of the talks and breakdown from the fight, it just was like, hey, the guy got outclassed. He was in a different matchup, and before I forget, the one thing that the footnote that I thought about, I've worked at and seen a lot of like high school football games at the high level at AT&T Stadium. So where it's just like you see the guys come in, you see the records, 13-1, 14-0, all the jackets with all the patches, from all the accomplishments that those players have, and you come in and somebody has to lose, and a lot of times they lose bad. That's what they reminded me of. It's like people were like really dogging Spence, and I was like, how about you? And I hate when people do that, and I know they do that a lot, and it just shows it's not just the player, this superstar thing, or this player from this sport. It's literally we are so into bashing the loser and talking about him. Whereas it's like before the fight, Terrence Bud Crawford was the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport, and he was and Errol Spence Jr. was number four. So number four lost to number one, and it's kind of like college football. We watch the playoff, and what happens? That team smacks that team. We don't always get that really good fight for the big championship matchup. We didn't. Vegas showed out. They showed up. I think I saw it was over 700,000 pay-per-view buys. So again, Mr. Bennett, knowing his stuff was right. He said, I don't think it's gonna get a million, but from what I read, it did get more than they expected. They did, profit a decent amount. I saw Vegas, they profited from the ticket gate. I think they made like 20 million. So it was the thing that, obviously I'm getting more into it. So I will still put myself rightfully with the casual hat, but I felt like it was decent for the sport. The only thing is now is with the other fights that were this year, that's the only problem. What's next? So hopefully there's something next that's coming about, and hopefully Spence doesn't rush. I know he has the rematch clause. Hopefully he heals his body up and figures out what to do, because he took a beating, looked like he's never taken before in his professional career.
Yeah, just like you, I'm just a casual watcher of boxing, And we went to the local Dave and Buster's to watch it, and it was definitely good 'cause it was free, so that's definitely a plus. And while I was watching the fight, it okay, round one, if I can remember, Spence was just coming out and he was just throwing just punches, punches, punches. It looked like he was just trying to add them up. And you can just see Crawford, he was just either blocking them or just dodging them or whatnot. He was just filling them out. Both fighters was filling each other out, but Spence was just throwing the most punches. And then I guess once Crawford started, because once Crawford started getting his rhythm and just kind of seeing more how Spence was attacking him, you saw seeing better defense from Crawford, including parrying some punches. And he's always been an excellent counter puncher, and you can just see him measuring his countering shots, eating Spence face up with a jab. You kept seeing Spence throughout the fight coming close to making, throwing some low blows at times. He was trying to hit that body, but he couldn't really. He just looked so out of whack because Crawford was just. I'm watching their feet, and Crawford was just always in a attacking position, just attacking stance, but methodically just always approaching Spence. Spence kept getting hit with these counter punches. You kept seeing Spence basically hit and run, like kind of hit and hurt but get back out of reach as best he can. Hit and so you just see him just go like in and out the whole fight because them counter punches was getting to him. In the meanwhile, he was just getting tagged with jabs just coming through. So there was his first knockdown was from a jab, but it hit him square. And his second knockdown, I thought he tripped. I didn't see the uppercut that Crawford landed on him to knock him down that second round. I saw it on the replay, and it was just nice and quick and smooth. Caught him in the chin. He had to go ahead and sit down for a second. Then of course, he damn near got knocked out the ring on one of them. It just looked like, I mean, you just saw a fight where just a fighter who's just so much more skilled. His counter punching was just abusing Spence. Now, me personally, I would like to see a rematch between the two because I like to see no different than like hell in football or whatnot. If you get beat the first time, I like to see the adjustments you make. Like playoff basketball, I like to see the adjustments you make. So that's the only reason why I would like to see a rematch. I would say, okay, Spence, who you get in the ring with the counter punching skills he has, the jab, and all this you experience. Let me see what counters or what strategy you go to next if y'all were to fight a second time. Because other than that, yeah, it was a nicely hyped fight per se. Of course, there's been more hyped fights, but I wish it was a whole lot better back and forth to really just get your money.
It was one-sided.
Yeah, you just saw a fighter just basically get dominated. So, but the good thing about it, I saw some clips after the two fought, the respect they had. I believe Crawford gave back Spence his belt so he could take him home. Mm-hmm. So, they have good respect for each other. I know Spence has the history of, I believe De La Hoya talked about it between his car wreck and all that, his detached retina. But like even Spence said, he make no excuses. They didn't really come. He came in. He was still in good shape in the fight. I mean, unless the car wreck done scrambled something in his brain, it ain't gonna do nothing not get a counterpunch.
A lot of people have been mentioning about the car wreck. They've been mentioning different things and other stuff that I don't even want to repeat. But I was just like, come on, man, y'all gotta let certain stuff go.
Yeah, that ain't gonna
you already know
counterpunch.
Yeah, I was like that situation, and that has nothing to do with boxing. But I was just like, look, man, you have fought a fighter that is at a different level. So you're at an elite level. He's at an elite level. It's more of an elite level. He's beat you. I'm with you on saying that I'm interested in seeing the rematch, but at the same time, I was reading an article from the Zone, and it was mentioning like some boxing people was like, "Hey, what do you think should be next? What's the next move?" Obviously, Bud Crawford got a lot of stuff on his plate that he could do, different options. Literally, there's clips of him calling out Charlo during the fight. It's saying if he wins, if he beats Canelo Alvarez, which they fight in September. And so I was like, wow, that's interesting. But there's also the face of I've heard Bud Crawford a clip. It was a clip and he was just like, I was talking about a rematch. He was like, been at 147 for a while. We could, look at moving it out of that class. Because I've heard a lot of people, especially here in the Dallas Ford Metroplex, mention, hey, he should take that fight, but not do it at 147. Because I know, so that's been mentioned. So there are steps for him to do it. But what I will say from boxing fans is this: if you want to know why people run, if you want to know people divide and take the fights that they know they can win, right here, he loses the fight, and then like it's just there's a certain percentage of people that are always gonna react a certain way, but it's just like, hey, the guy he didn't lose to a scrub. It was a like look it looked like to me, and it's been confirmed by other boxing analysts. It's a masterclass that Crawford put on. I mean, he just shredded that dude.
And they say right now he's the best pound for pound boxer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and now, and I saw that coming in, him being one. So it's just like now he's gonna retain that. He just had a dominating victory. So it's just like he lost to like that's kind of like I know it happens at times. You poke fun of a team, even though I know I've done it. That loses in a championship situation. If you lose in a conference finals or a championship, it's like you were one of the last teams left. So yeah, you can poke at me, but at the same time, respect the fact that he had belts to put on display and that he put up for it. He made the fight. Pretty sure that he's 33, so pretty sure he's gonna take some more fights. Now only time will tell. We know he had the detached retina, which is what threw the fight off, with Pacquiao, and so now it's the case of, hey, how does he heal his body up and what does he make his next move? That's the only thing that can get. If you make that wrong mistake and pick a fight and then you're not ready for it and you get beat up again, then you go and I think that really hurts you more than just the one loss. So I'm hoping that he can get everything together and get things going in a good direction.
Now you brought up a good point about how fighters nowadays are so, you can see that they are so mindful of their win loss record. I mean, this
And
is
we know
his
who,
first loss.
and I don't care who you say about it. I don't always like the grief that Floyd Mayweather gets, but let's not act like he didn't get a bunch of big purses. He got a nice, pretty record, and he kind of, from what boxing aficionados tell me, he made sure to select the right fights and push stuff off and move it around. He did that, and if you do that, and you also are a boxing promoter, and other young fighters are looking at you, it's kind of like not saying that, hey, Jordan taught a mentality of you don't always got to make that pass. Sometimes you just got to take that shot. He had that type of philosophy. Kobe had that type of philosophy. So you can't be mad if other younger guys see it. You can see it. You just got to coach it out of them. It's just that boxing is a sports where it's just like you make a lot of decision making. There's your team, and then there's the other person's camp, and there's a promoter. So what you decide to do with your career, you know, it's not too much influence other people can have them.
Well, even like the names of the past, the boxing glory days, I say, a lot of them, I don't know their record off the top of my head, but I know a lot of the boxers that are admired today. Hell, even Muhammad Ali, he was not undefeated. But the thing about Ali, he fought the biggest fighters that was available during his time. He fought. Some of them he lost to, and then some of them he got back. But just the fact that back then it was just beating the best fighters. If you lose, you lose. They'll get a rematch or they'll make their name up, somehow in the future. But now, and it kind of back then, I guess it was just a love for the craft, for the sport. I want to go against the best. If you beat me this time, I'm gonna beat you next time. That's just how it was in sports. Hell, even with Jordan, when he couldn't get past the Pistons, and he literally said he just beat them up. He didn't complain. He went in the gym, got bigger, stronger, and
Tim
came back
Grover.
and beat them the next season. That's when they went, to win a championship. So back then, it was more of, I'm not afraid of that competition. I would take my lumps and I will learn from them if I happen to fall down, this one time. With boxing now, like we just said, they're so mindful of their undefeated records. You got in other sports, I believe we were talking about this last week, how players are more interested in their brands and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
making the money, growing their own individual brands instead of that's their priority instead of the
Instead of
the priority of
the
winning.
sport and the winning part, it does sometimes take a back seat. And like you got guys that like I don't want you to be that purist, where it's just like it's all this. It's like I don't better yet not to take a jab at him. I don't want you to be Mike Trout. I don't want because I do think if you are a great enough player, especially in a team sport, you have an obligation to put yourself out there. Yeah, it's gonna help your pockets, but it's gonna help grow the game. It helps the game when there's that one person where it's just like, oh, I'll watch because they're playing and then they're playing their team. They might see them because every team has star players. It's your obligation to it. I feel like to a certain degree, there's boxers, there's an obligation to the sport to be like, hey, give the fight that people want to see. Like we beat it into the head, and it's never going to go away until boxing gets back to that level. We bring up UFC and the fights you want, which the fights we were watching, interesting enough, they were on as well. UFC fights were on as well. So it's just like, what's going on, Mr. Bennett? It's a lot of that. Like every sport, there's a responsibility. Hey, you take this. The people before you, you're gonna make a lot more money than they did
Yeah,
in most situations. So take that responsibility, respect them, put it on their back and be like, you know what? Hey, let's have this. Let's have this Spence Crawford. Let's have was it Haney? I was reading his movie Upper Division. So it's just like these guys need to stay active. You get your money. Go ahead and respect the game, get that fight. A guy that's respected. I want to say he only had 3 losses, but I'm looking at it as Sugar Ray Leonard. It's like I'm looking at his record. He had 1 draw. Like, don't be scared. I know there was some tough fights in there you took. Go ahead and go and be about it. Hopefully the promoters to realize, hey, it's more if you do realize it's more money if you make the fights, right? So hopefully it was. I was excited. Like I said, if they rematch, I'd even be willing to pay for it myself because my thing is when you invest in the sport and you pay for it, you are a lot more interested and then you'll pay attention a little bit on the undercards. Because we were looking at that fight on the undercard. Man, that dude was small. He was throwing the punches. I can't remember that kid's name, but yeah, I'm hoping that like we said, it'll be like another rematch that it won't be like 3 years later. I hate that. It's just like it's kind of like we get that
well, I don't even
sequel
think it'll be like
movie.
3 years later because of Crawford's age. I believe he's what,
That's
35, 36.
yeah,
So
he's 30.
he
Yeah, he's
wants to he
35.
want to fight in his in his heyday right now too. So
And what's crazy is I was reading he's not like a 2 fight a year guy. He's like I was reading in that DAZN article. They was like he's got some opportunities to go, but it'll more than likely be early next year. And I was just like, you might want to change that because it's like I read that he's take care of his body. He doesn't, the other vices that get a lot of people like that guy. I forgot his name. He was a decent boxer. And he just went off the rails. His name's I know he was under Floyd. But you still, Father
I
Time
forget
comes
too.
and gets you.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Bronner.
yeah, Bronner. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the exact. I just couldn't. His name escaped me, and it was just like, dude, what happened? Like I was like, it was weird. I'd never
what's up?
seen that before.
What's up,
But
Mr.
go ahead,
Bennett?
Mr. Bennett. What you got for us, man?
Hey, good to be here with you guys tonight. And, great commentary so far, really. For two guys who call themselves casuals, I think you certainly have captured, made some great points about the fight, and there was little doubt about the fight in terms of what we all saw and witnessed, and it was just it was just one of those special performances. I know, Shawnee, you talked about liking to see the fight more competitive, and I generally agree with you. But there's those moments in boxing that I've seen over the years where it's not about competitive. Like when you see a fighter like at their height
Mm-hmm.
of their ability, it's almost like they're fighting in the Matrix. You know what I mean? It's almost
Mm.
like they can see like that Spider-Man movie, the first Spider-Man, where Flash throws a punch and
Yeah.
Yes, he looks back at it and
Yeah.
when you fighting on that kind of level where everything kind of slows down and you just take mastery. So you look at, going back in history, you look at Muhammad Ali versus Cleveland Williams, where he does the shuffle in the fight and still knocks him out after doing the shuffle. Or when you saw Mike Tyson knock out Michael Spinks in one round, like you could look at those fights and you could say they were never higher or they never performed better than their height. So is this the best that we'll ever see from Bud Crawford? I don't know. But certainly if he wanted to retire today and be like, that's my mic drop and just walk away from the sport, then nobody would complain because of how perfect that performance was. So yeah, so me and guys who were watching that had a fight party at my house. I had some guys over and we were just in awe of what we were seeing. And you just have to just salute Bud Crawford that he put together a masterful performance. He was the quicker man. His punches, you could tell they were just faster. It's like both of them throw a jab, but Bud's got there first. And the recall back, it was almost like Spence's punches. They were heavy. They were sort of plodding. They were thudding, but they didn't have that snap on them. The quick jab and then come back to it. Whereas Bud, you could certainly tell he had the speed advantage, and his punches just got there first. And again, Spence, he wasn't able to make any adjustments because of how he was getting tagged and whatnot. He just knew, and that's been his game for the most part. I mean, he's a fundamentally sound fighter, but his whole MO is just pressure, constant pressure, wear you down over certain rounds. And he tried to employ that, and he didn't know like a second gear. He didn't have another strategy except just to come forward. He just kept getting tagged and counterpunched, and it just went south just very quickly for him. And but the one thing that I know some people are looking to downplay it, but Spence said it right after the fight. He said he wants the rematch, but he wants it at 154. I do believe he was drained. Like I said last week, I saw some training footage of him earlier, and he was very ripped weeks out from the fight. And so that was just telling me in my mind, is he going to starve himself to get to weight for this fight? He weighed in at the 147-pound limit. So my concern was, is that desire to get down in weight, is that going to drain him in the fight? And I still believe to this day that, the slowness of his punches, the lack of reaction time, I think for me, those are signs of a guy who really suffered to get underweight for the fight. So, or at least in theory, I would certainly be open to seeing this again at 154. My only concerns is his health. Because I don't know if you noticed after the fight, his speech was very slurred after the fight.
Yeah, I caught it. I caught that.
Especially given everything else that has been known about his accidents and his injuries and whatnot, but the slurred speech after the fight was just very telling to me. And honestly, I thought that they should have stopped the fight, to be honest, after round 7, the 2 knockdowns in round 7. I thought really they should have considered stopping the fight right then. But to have him go out again and take the punch, I'm grateful that the referees came in when he did to avoid further punishment. But I really thought that you could have stopped it then. Not so much that could he have continued, but more so you have to look at if he does intend to continue his career. What is going to be his mental state going forward when you've been thoroughly beat? It's one thing to lose.
Yeah.
It's one thing to get knocked out, because anybody can get knocked out, flash knockout or whatever. That's not a thing. But to be into a fight and get beat up, that's a totally different thing altogether. And he's going to have to go back. He can say,
mentally and physically.
Yeah, so you can say all you want to. Now I'm not going to watch. Well, I never saw the fight or whatever. They all see the fight. I mean, it's you can go back and watch, and you can just in your mind, you cannot help to say that this guy is simply better than me. And I don't care if I go up in weight. I might fight more naturally at 154. I could be a little sharper, but Crawford had all the answers. He had all the, he was throwing punches that simply Spence could not see. Sean, you were talking about that sneaky left uppercut that nobody saw. I literally was some.
I sat to watch it on the replay. I was like,
the guy's like, oh, I was like, well, what happened? What happened? I just see him down. I didn't see the punch myself until the replay. So again, he's the fact that he's being able to throw all these punches from different angles that you don't see coming, it has to weigh on his mind if he wants to continue on. Do I still have it, or do I want to put myself through this? I made my money, I got my family and whatnot. He is 33, which is not, these days it's not old in boxing terms, but again, given the injuries, you can make an argument that his injuries probably put 10 years on him in terms of just wear and tear over someone who hasn't gone through that. So I'm not sure if I want to see him fight again. And I know you had some people come out and say, they're worried about him, certainly taking this rematch too early, not giving themselves a chance to heal. But it's also a catch-22 because he took a year off before this fight. He had an opportunity to fight earlier in the year. A year he fought Ugas last year. There was a fight with Keith Thurman that was proposed that he could have taken. I think he would have beat Thurman. I think Thurman is I think he needs to step off the stage. The guy's fought once in 3 years, but he still talks like he's an A-side fighter. So I thought that would have been a nice tune-up in anticipation for this fight. Bud did have a tune-up fight. He fought David Avanesian again early in the year. So again, him taking now another year or so to sort of heal from these injuries. But again, in boxing parlance, the more time you take off, you're not going to be fresher. You're not going to be better because of it. So it's a really tough situation. But after what I saw after the in the interview, I'm not enthused about him stepping into the ring. I seriously think he needs to think about retirement. And I think for Bud Crawford, I think certainly you got Jerron Boots Ennis, who I think regardless if Bud decides to move up and fight Charlo, I think Jerron Boots Ennis is next or the next at 147 when these guys step off, because obviously Spence is leaving the division if he chooses to fight again. And I can certainly see Bud. There's nothing left to prove unless he wants to fight the young lion. The guy's 26 years old, undefeated, very high knockout ratio. He's considered to be the heir apparent. Whether or not you want to have a match to decide that, or he just moves up and vacates the belts, and then Jerron, has to try to build his own legacy there. But certainly him fighting Crawford, that would certainly be a legacy-defining fight for him. Should he be able to beat Crawford? So that's what I kind of see in the foreseeable future. But yeah, when you just sit back and just look at that, that's one of those performances that we'll be talking about years from now, and just see the dominance of that performance. It's like it's going to be very difficult for him to top that. And but I think the fact that he's just getting his roses now, he's just getting his sign. This will be really his first opportunity to make some money. So I definitely see Bud Crawford more so than Spence continuing to fight, because now everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows that, he even said after the fight, people tried to blackball him. Certainly we all know about Bob Arum and what he said about him, and all that he's not a, marketable fighter and whatnot. But now everyone's seeing him. Obviously they want to see him again. So I certainly wouldn't mind him taking another 2, 3, 4 fights. Let him make his tens of millions of dollars and let him get paid the respect that he's due. Plus, he's got 7 kids, so he's going to need all the money that he can get to take care of all the kids that he has. And I heard him on a Pivot podcast. He said, "Look, he's not getting stiffed anytime soon, so we can see some more kids coming down the line." So you never know. So yeah, make as much money as you can, brother, in this time. But it's your time.
Got to do it. So, man, I sure appreciate you, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate that compliment about, capturing the essence of boxing. I'm trying. Like I said, the more fights I get, I'm pretty sure I'll get a lot more into it and be able to, break it down a lot more. Right. I do appreciate that. And Sonny, I know I got the report here, what you got as far as how you wanted to go.
I just put something down there. I just put something down there.
For me, with that, I got to get into like the whole essence. So if you want to go into the Cook situation, or do you want to go into the Jonathan Taylor? Start
with Taylor, man.
With the Jonathan Taylor, one of the best backs in the league 2 years ago, 1,800-yard season, just offensive player of the year, amazing season. Had a down year last year, had an ankle injury, so he's rehabbing the ankle injury, and he's on the PUP list. That's the physically unable to perform. And actually, I think the Colts went ahead and took it a step further, put it on the NFI. That's the non-football injury. So basically, that means, and I think they did this for a reason. If there
They
is
don't
an
have to
issue
pay
in which
him.
he would not play, they do not have to pay him, and this does not count as a year on his books. So that means he would still be on a rookie contract because he was a second round pick. That's 4 years. He would have to repeat that year. And he came out and vehemently denied it and said that, hey, no back injury. He's said this. I know he's on pup, so you can assume that maybe the pup is from the ankle injury, or to be honest, with the owner they have, the comments he's made, it could be one of those situations. We're gonna call this guy's bluff. We know he requested a trade, and then maybe it was one of those situations. He's on pup here. He gets the trade, the new deal. He's at practice next day with the ball, going through drills. Could be one of those type of situations. We don't know, but from what it looks like, Jim Irsay basically said, and I'll sum up the quote because I got it pulled up. Or I was pulling it up. He basically said that, look, if it's football, you know, if football stopped tomorrow, basically the league is
Yeah,
going to
if
still
if
keep going.
if Taylor is no longer with us as far as the Colts,
Yes,
and if he, uh, the owner dies today, football will still
yeah,
be going
yeah.
forward. No
If,
one
if
will, no one will miss him.
if I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one's going to miss us. As the league goes on, we know that. And said the national football rolls on. It doesn't matter who came and who goes. It's a privilege to be a part of it. All right. So you can say that statement about him. You can make that statement. We can make the same statement as soon as you own this team, you will still be wealthy, but we won't give a damn about you. Other than the time we caught you with like thousands of cash and some controlled substance in your trunk, and you had to get suspended. Like that's what we will remember you by. We'll remember you as the guy that got rid of Peyton Manning, as the owner that got rid of Peyton Manning, got Andrew Luck, destroyed his career, and Peyton went on to win another Super Bowl. So it's like we want to go and play that kind of game. We shouldn't do that. Just like we should, we know running backs are in a situation where everyone talks about, the union and what they should have did with the agreement. That was something that wasn't even brought about last CBA. Plus, it's something that is the players union strong enough to say, hey, we're going to look out for the running backs, and then the offensive linemen look out for us, and hands are going to start going up. Like there's a lot more nuance that needs to be made about that conversation. I don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but I heard Brandon Marshall talking about it, and I was like, Brandon, I'm sorry. With the acumen that you haven't shown in the media since you've been in it, I don't think union conversation is in it. I more so want to hear from Dominique Foxworth, who was actually a part of the union. And so for him, I think he should kind of table that. But from the standpoint, you have an owner speaking like this, they need to gather him up and be like, hey, we don't need to have another Daniel Snyder. We don't need to have another jackass that's an owner. They need to get them together and say, hey, you can feel how you want to feel that, but you can't say that. Like you gotta chill. You need to be quiet. Let the situation play out. Because eventually we know he might show up if he wants to get paid. He has to show up and pay. But if they want a disgruntled employee, he can show up and do all types of things. I mean, Brandon Marshall is famous for showing up and just punting balls, and the next thing you know, he was traded. Like, he just literally went to practice and punted balls the entire time he was in Denver. And so you have to measure how you want to play it. So I respect Jonathan Taylor for defending himself, because if they're putting an injury on you that you didn't have, that's dirty stuff, and that's a lawsuit that he
Yeah,
could that
yeah.
he
The
could look
union
up,
can the
and they
union
can
can
make
get
go
mad.
away with the trade. You know?
So I was watching First Take once, and Dan Orlovsky was on there, and he brought up a good point. He was saying, for the average citizen, basically, as you growing up, you are being taught and told that you will get benefits from the work you put into something. The more work you put in there, you will see the benefit. You reap more benefits. So you take that philosophy, you put it in running backs. Same thing as when running backs, as they going through high school and college, they working hard. Then when you get in the NFL, they working hard at being, and in this case, Jonathan Taylor being hellified productive. 2 seasons ago, he was in the MVP race. So he's been super productive, and then literally, okay, you go to the owner and saying, hey, I'm outperforming my current contract. I'm performing like as I should be getting paid this. So let me get paid that. And then your owner is just coming out and saying, yeah, okay, you perform like that, but we're not going to give you that money. So all the hard work that you put in it is shown that, and and then the ownership be like, okay, you can work as hard as you want, but we're not going to pay you what you actually producing for us. So it's just totally opposite. And a lot of times, the quarterbacks, because the running backs are besides the quarterback, the running back's probably the most worked position on the field, especially if you're a bell cow running back like Taylor is. And for that team, it's almost like the Giants. For that team, you basically are the offense for the most part. And,
especially with a rookie quarterback coming in.
Yeah, and I believe he had last year, or was it last year? He had
Matt Ryan. He started the
carries.
Yeah, he started the year with Matt Ryan that couldn't couldn't carry the load like that as a quarterback anymore. And you had Wentz the year before.
So
yeah, a lot of pressure on him.
You're doing that, and so you're being as productive or more productive as a quarterback that you have currently under center. But quarterbacks, they are getting paid a whole lot more, especially showing up there in New York. They're the one who getting the big money, but your running backs who was, respectively has been more, who was outproduced you, they can't get paid.
And
so
sort of
I believe it's gonna be a time where running backs may start looking more side eye at quarterbacks, because unless quarterbacks start walking into these rooms, the owners by the side of their running back, hey, you gave me my money, give him his money too. More of an effort like that or something. Running backs are gonna start looking side at it towards quarterbacks, because hey man, you doing all this and getting your money, but I'm not. I'm doing as much or just more work than you, and I can't get paid. So I don't know. I understand. I remember we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the whole ordeal with running backs not getting paid. And like I said, I understand both sides of the coin, because unfortunately for that position, it's probably the easiest position in the league to find talent in. Yeah, you may not find a talent they may be able to produce yard for yard as the previous running back, but they'll be productive enough with an offensive flow. So, like you see,
the theory is you can find 80 to 85% of a back.
An excellent example. Pacheco, I forgot what round he was drafted, but he was drafted
7th.
Yeah,
he was drafted 7th because they were talking about him and how bad it's going to go.
But he's been hella productive for that team. So, I mean, that's what owners say.
It's a tough deal, but here's the other thing I want to say about that. The dirty thing that they never want to talk about, because you don't want to out people because they are so important. The position that has the most power in the NFL until they want to impose that power on you is the quarterback position. The quarterback position is not very union friendly. They're not. If you want to talk about being union friendly, one thing is getting the max every player getting the maximum amount of dollars they want. That's why, as much as people talk about the NBA and teaming up and all of that, you were never going to see Kyrie Irving take a mid-level exception deal like last summer. He could have not opted into the contract, took a mid-level exception deal, came to LA, no problem. But they know nobody's going to do that because that's bad for the union. And for the union, look, Patrick Mahomes' deal, while it's big in numbers for the agent, overall, it's not the best as far as the per annual value in new cash. So, and he seems like a guy that's not willing to rip it up. Like you said, the quarterbacks have the power. They could march in there and be like, hey, I'm standing with the guys. I want you to go and, can you give this guy a new deal? I'm not pleased with my situation. Negotiate my contract, but get his done first. You saw with Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones, they brought a guy back that he wanted. He pressured them. But you don't see that all the time, and that's something that the quarterbacks could definitely do. We're not asking you to come out here and call for a strike every time, but you can go and help your players out. You can get the most money. You can put it to the Colts, and you can also, as a quarterback, you're the closest person on the team to ownership because they're gonna treat you special, treat you differently. You can make sure that it's a hey, I'm with the guys type of situation. I saw that happen here in Dallas with Tony Romo. He was very much like. His son is named Jones. So that's all I have to tell you. And Dak was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And that's another reason why they talk about the quarterback competition. That's why he got the job that and they was winning. But that's something
Hey, guys,
quarterbacks can do. But
can I ask you a question since you guys mentioned Dallas earlier? I recall first time I heard of a running back situation, you guys would be close to this, was DeMarco Murray back in 2014. He had that big year, 392 carries, 1,800 yards, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, all that. And then the next year he's in Tennessee. So, I mean, like, do you see this as a similar situation that, clearly he outperformed, that he was certainly the bell cow, that team that went 12-4 that year. But do you see this as a similar situation? I mean, I kind of experienced some of this with Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, where, he was clearly an all-pro, purpose back. He wanted his money. They didn't want him to say give it to him, whatnot. And so, he was already franchised once. I think they were trying to franchise him again, and he left. So this has been going on for a while, almost 10 years now, with just this devaluation of the running back over time. I mean, certainly you've had some contracts that haven't panned out over the years. But did you see that situation similar to what's going on now?
Yeah,
because I know what they're gonna do to him. They're gonna load him up. They're gonna load him up and let him walk.
And then they try to do this running back by committee the next year, and it didn't work. And then that's how they ended up drafting Elliott with the 4th overall pick.
Right.
And with him, they was trying to avoid that, so they end up paying Zeke earlier than what you normally will pay if you decide to give a running back a second contract.
Right.
But yeah, DeMarco Murray, basically the same thing. They used him up, and they say, okay, we don't want to pay you no more. But he didn't do the Le'Veon Bell route. Le'Veon Bell, he was so stuck on you gonna pay me. He took that year off.
Yeah.
And then ultimately went to the Jets, and he was not the same player with the Jets.
Right.
With the he got his money, but he was a dud.
Right.
DeMarco Murray kind of, he got paid with the Titans, but he was not the same like he was with the Cowboys.
He did have
he went to what's it called?
So he was able to,
with the Cowboys, he was straight dominant.
Kind of last year, but
with the Cowboys, he was dominant. But I don't think he had 1 year of success, but it just that dominant that you saw in the Cowboys uniform. You didn't see that.
He went to Tennessee after he went to. That hurt me. He went to Philly. Yeah, that hurt. That was like that made me cringe. I understand the business of sport, but gosh, I do not like that team. But it was just like, but I always want every player to get their money. They clearly were not going to give it to him. Yeah, it's football. It's like, hey, go get it. I still hurt for a guy in another sport, DeMarcus Cousins. Hey, he never got to that max.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, I wish he would have signed an extension. And it's just like, then it kept happening, and I was just like, dang. That's why you got to secure it when you can, because you are here today and gone tomorrow. I know a lot of people beg and plead, like, hey, why is he still in the league? And I was just like, man, look, I can show you a list of injuries, and I can show you what he can't do. I can show you what he can do, but what he can't do is a little bit more overpowering. And so, that happens. It happens in sports, and it's tough. That's why I say, go and get yours. The championships and the winning will sort itself out, because as much as you can come back for a 20th year or whatever year when you win a championship, man, you're like, I saw a clip of a guy. I forgot his name. I know his dad played in the league, and he did too. And he was talking about, hey, he had a good career. And he was like, yeah, some days I can't work out the way I want to. I can't do this. He tries not to use pain meds. And he was just like, hey, it's tough. Like, everybody's not, the guy that can. A lot of players, or I remember Jerome Bettis said he couldn't get out of bed till Thursday. Yeah. And I just thought about, like, that just made me, because although he was a Steeler, I really liked Jerome Bettis. I ain't gonna lie. Like, seeing, like he said, like, his state case for the Hall of Fame was good. He said, look at all the running backs in the Hall of Fame. They look at me. I'm unique. And I was just like, I already knew that, but I was like, damn, you saw the hell out of yourself. So I was glad he got it. It had a cool nickname. I mean, and it's just like, there's guys that do that. Then you have your, Emmitt Smith, with all he's got. And wasn't as much like that, but he was a guy that he took care of his body. He was able to be one of. But even the guys that took care of it, and I hate it because he was a great Cowboy, great player. Tony Dorsett, he used to tell Earl Campbell about the hits he'd take, and he went out of bounds, took the precautions, still ended up, with some issues. That's why he doesn't see him as much. And so it's just like, it's such a brutal game. I hope, he ended up having an ugly divorce with the Cowboys and going and playing in Denver. So it's really something that's always been there for running backs if you look at it historically. But looking at it right now, I hope that the young players and if any young guys that's like, hey, I'm a running back, I want to play it, I want to take the challenge. I say this: when you go to college, go to a college where they have an established running back that is going to come back the next season. Play under him. Take you guys split those carries up. But no matter what happens, if you're talented enough to go pro, unless it's just you can't turn down the NIL money. You leave after your third season. So even if you redshirt and you play redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore, go to the league. Go at least, and if you're not a first rounder, you're a guy, you have 4 years, you hit the contract, you're 25 years old.
Right.
They're only going to say you got 3 years left. The average contract when they set them up is 3 years. And that if you count out the guaranteed money, it's basically split up over 3 years, and they can cut you after that. Nothing else is guaranteed. You have to protect yourself and fight for the union to do better on your situation. Because a guy like Dalvin Cook, we'll get into next, he still has tread on the tire. He has some injuries, but he's a guy that they just didn't want to pay it. And he was just like, it's one of those deals. I'll take a pay cut and go somewhere else, but I'm not coming to where I've been the man, where I got the established parking spot, where I got the, hey, what are we doing tonight? You set the table, you set the stage, and then I'm coming in here making a meal. Like Zeke, I don't want Zeke to come back for like $1 million. I love Zeke. I know this sport of business, but in this era, I don't want him to come back because it's like that's a tough deal.
So, Mr. Benny, you up in the New York area, right?
Yeah.
So, what I've been trying to understand this whole Saquon Barkley contract situation, because the running backs had this Zoom meeting, and it was all about, running backs being underpaid. And pretty much, within 24 hours, maybe 36, you see a contract. Now, Barkley signs a 1-year deal with the Giants, but it was only $1 million more than something like. What? So
I have no idea. I think someone blinked. I think he blinked in the situation because again, you might as well take the franchise tag and call it a day.
Yeah.
Fight your battle another day. But I just think that was but it's a problem I guess across the league. Just the value of the running back. They're finding them everywhere. You saw what Kansas City did last year from Rutgers. At running back position, you had a big role in the Super Bowl. So that's just the nature of the position, just the hits, especially when you saw forget the guy who got that big contract who played for the Rams, running back for the Rams.
Oh,
Gurley.
Yeah, Gurley. I think these owners they're looking at that and they're just saying, nah, I just don't want to throw that kind of money out there for these guys as talented as he was. And, so it's just not a running back friendly league anymore. Even if you're the versatile guy, even if you're the guy who can, like I said, let Bell, he could take, catch, he was basically a third or fourth receiver on the field. He had excellent, catch 50, 60 passes a year. And I just think these, from the owner's perspective, they just think that the running back position is, as long as you got that O-line, you can plug and play with that. That's why Dallas has been known over the years for having these great offensive lines over the years. And I guess they just put some philosophies that they can just put it in there and they can just plug a running back in there. So, that's just going to be the nature of it. But, it didn't look good for Barkley. Not sure why he capitulated to that. That was just if you're going to go around the block to wind up in a place, like you said, just $1 million difference between what the franchise would have been and what he ultimately got. So, I don't see that at all.
I think he knew it just wasn't in the cards for him. And I think it really hurts him because 2 players that were first round picks that got the tag with being Barkley and Josh Jacobs, that hurts because now we can basically take a picture today, August 2nd, 2023. Are we going to be in this same situation in a few years?
Right.
For my boy Bijan Robinson?
Right. And especially
they about to load him up.
Yeah. And especially it hurts even more given the fact that they took care of Daniel Jones, who had a bit of a breakout year. I'm still not sold on Danny Dimes if he's the guy. But there was, so that's what makes it more so. You still have this unproven commodity. If he was a Jalen Hurts or someone of that ilk, you can just
leverage. Got to get it. Got to get it done.
Yes, but so I don't know, if he's still on the upscale, we'll see what happens this year. But that's what makes it even more hurtful. That you take care of a guy who's relatively unproven in Daniel Jones, and you don't want to take a guy who's been your bell cow, since he got in the league. Yes, he's had some injuries he's had to overcome, but to me he's almost like he's like the like Adrian Peterson in that regard. It doesn't matter what you do to him or whatever. He'll still bounce back and have, he can break one at any time.
He's always a threat.
Yeah.
You could be stopping him for three and a half quarters, and that's the thing. Like I'm confident.
Yeah.
Facing him twice a year, we have built up our run defense because I was just like, hey, there's two things that have happened here lately that it sucks we didn't take advantage of it, but between the Giants not being competent, and that with Dave Gettleman, and then having Washington just for 24 years, essentially the bulk of 24 years being incompetent. They have new ownership and they have a head coach over there. The guy they got from Buffalo.
Yeah, Daboll. Yeah,
Daboll. So it's kind of like it's only a matter of time. But I was looking at it, I forgot where this guy went. Jalen Hyatt. They were showing speed times, and they were showing Usain Bolt. The fastest he ran was 27.8 miles per hour.
Right.
It was just like, Jalen Hyatt ran like 23 miles an hour, and so did Tyreek Hill. And I was just like, I knew that 40 time was misleading.
They say Hyatt,
like, I've seen that guy. Yeah, they said, because they said Danny Jones walked by and said, hey, did you tell him about 24? And I was just like, had to back him up. I had to back him up and just go for it. It's just like, but I will say, iron sharpens iron. If those teams get better, but you can still compete with them or beat them when you face the other teams in the conference. And I do think that's one thing that Dak can struggle with is the fact that, hey, when you face these better defenses, you got to be on your game. You can't, you can't have that oops turnover.
Hyatt is with the Giants.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They gotta. When I saw it, I was like, damn, he with the Giants. That's somebody I wanted, Cowboys. But I know they didn't want to double dip and be like, oh, we got this guy. It just sucks that, hey man, I'm tired of the second round pick being the hurt guy, and already the second round pick is the hurt guy. So I'm already on the negative tune to him. I'm positive about other things that count. But Shani, I want to make sure we got time for this because I know this means a lot to you and I. I saw what you put towards the end of the docket for the schedule list, and it has about the Major League Baseball, the playoff division races. So make sure we save some time for that.
One of them. So, Elizabeth, do you follow any baseball? You have any teams?
Honestly, I don't typically get into baseball until now. I just can't, especially you got the NBA player runs that you coming out of that. You had all these fights that have been coming up as of late, and unfortunately, my Yankees are in last place. So I got nothing.
That's
to really,
crazy.
I got nothing.
Division is crazy. You're not a last place team.
Honestly, I'm not fully into the baseball yet. If there was going to be a potential run, I know they were trying to make some moves. I think Judge, was coming back or whatever. But that's the thing too. I mean, they just paid him a boatload of money, and my man just can't stay healthy. I mean, it's just unfortunate that it got at. But I don't think, honestly, this is almost like that Zion Williamson situation. I think he's too big to be playing baseball. I mean, I don't think God created players to be that big and be able to take those mighty swings or whatnot. Something's going to break. Something is just like there's too much muscle on that frame or whatever that something's going to pull one way or the other. So he just can't. He's just.
And you got two of them. You got two of them because I've heard baseball people say that about Giancarlo Stanton. They was like, that guy's just too muscly to play that. And then the swing and it's so violent. It was like he's always going to be on the disabled list.
Yeah, something's going to be pulled.
Excuse me, the injured list.
He's diving for balls in center in right field or center field, diving for baseballs. I mean, you're a 280-pound, 6'7" guy. I mean, you're not. Guys like that are not supposed to be playing baseball.
Usually, if they that at least that tall, only time I see a tall baseball player like that are pitchers.
Yeah, or back in the day, you had Dave Winfield. Dave Winfield played for the Yankees. He was 6'6", but again, he was skinny. He was like 220 pounds.
Yeah.
At the most.
Yeah.
But to carry so much muscle and girth, I mean, everybody, we thought at the time Jose Canseco was just this freak monster guy, but ran it. He was like 230, 240 at the time. But there was no body fat on him. Like he totally changed how a baseball player is supposed to look. But we all know why. So. So for me, baseball has just not been good, but I hear the product is better. I used to, even on the regular, because I used to do a lot of road travel, so I would constantly have the game on radio. John Sterling made the calls for the Yankees, so I would just constantly have the game on all the time. I would rather listen to the game than actually watch the game because I was entertained by the broadcasters. But as of late, especially just given where they're at, the Yankees their model is just throwing money at a problem. And unfortunately, especially when these guys get to the playoffs, they set the league record for home runs and all this stuff, and they bat under 200 in the playoffs. I just turn it off. The pitchers, the pitchers are giving it up, and the big guys who are supposed to be the guns can't hit. And so I don't know, what the situation, but they're almost building the team the way their daddy did. And it's interesting that the Yankees got good. That stretch in the late 90s and 2000s when they were good. Steinbrenner was out of baseball. He got suspended out of baseball. The
Winfield stuff, right?
Yeah. And that's when they got Derek Jeter. That's when they got Bernie Williams. That's when they got Jorge Posada, Mariano Rivera. They built the team from the farm up rather than going after big time free agents. They put in.
And I thought they were there. I thought y'all were there too with Judge and the different guys who had gotten, and it got away from them. And
they kept running by Astros.
He's like a unicorn. He's just like, again, you're not supposed to have a guy who's bigger than most. He's bigger than most NFL football players. Okay, he's bigger than most.
Tight end. That's an edge. That's an edge rusher. They got and they looked at his high school stats. Like he was just a freak. He played every sport, and he was great at everything. And I was like, I know teams hated him. I know guys hated him. Well, yeah, we bring that up because Sonny has an allegiance with the Astros. I have an allegiance with the Rangers, and it's like this is our first time being good in 6 years, and it's like we are trying to fight them off so bad. Of course, we did because I'm not gonna lie. I'll give some context. As a Rangers fan, I was very upset. I understand that it's hot in Texas, but the stadium they built opened in like 93, 94. That stadium, it's still in good shape. They use it as like a stadium, a multi-purpose stadium, concert, high school football stadiums. They didn't tear it down, but you built the other building for the roof. I'm not going to lie. Today was 107. That roof was very necessary, but it's still the fact that they got the new stadium, but they didn't pay no money. Then they gave the big contract to Simeon. They gave it to Seager. Then the next offseason, they gave it to Jacob DeGrom.
To tell you the truth, what's up, Andre? The Rangers are starting to take a page. The Rangers are actually starting to take a page out the Yankees book. Because the Rangers, everybody can't do or don't really want to do what the Astros did. The Astros literally sacrificed 3 seasons when they lost 100 games and 3 straight. But that's when they picked up. That's when they was killing on Altuve. Well, Altuve was during the midst of that. Springer, Correa, Bregman. So they was getting all these high picks, and they turned around and had great success with them. But I remember those years, Altuve's early years. Altuve was just the only. He was always a hitting machine, but they was not winning, and of course they kept losing 100 games. It turned around in 2015 when they should have beat the Royals, who actually ended up going and winning the World Series, but they let one game go, and then they ended up losing the series. I think 3 games to 2, so I think it was a 5-game series. But franchises don't want to go that route because it's hard. Because that was right after when the Astros used to be in the NL Central. And then they want to kind of reorganize the division, so they asked the Astros, hey, would you be willing to move to the AL West? And then that just created a losing streak. So you literally have to go, it's damn near like in college football giving the team the death penalty, how they treat the Astros because of all the losing they had to go through. But they came out. So the Rangers, y'all was trying to really go and build up your farm system and try to bring up, and then it turned out to say, man, it's just not working. So with just 3 players alone, Simeon, Seager, and DeGrom, there's almost $1 billion between them 3. Just them 3. Now they got Scherzer coming in, even though the Mets are taking care of a lot of his contract. But and I think they kind of doing the same thing with Verlander when he got traded.
Verlander. They're trying to rebuild
contract.
Mhm.
So I'm saying they almost taken now. They still have some young players from their farm club
What
coming in,
what
like
what I heard
Young.
what I heard is they only gave up one top 10 guy. Because I remember I
No,
saw your
yeah,
post on my page. They
yeah,
only gave up one top 10 guy. You guys gave up a higher place guy to get
exactly. The
Verlander,
Mets
because you
got
guys have
the
had
Mets
so many
got
runs. You've given up players.
Acuna, who was number 3 in the Rangers farm
Yeah.
club, who instantly became
Hmm.
their number 1 prospect in their
Yeah.
farm club. Then when they traded Verlander, they got the Astros number 1, number 2 rated prospects. When actually the number 2 prospect was performing better than number 1. So even though the Mets, they obviously said, because they tried to do the whole build their team, build of just paying
Yeah.
out money.
They
But
basically said they
they
weren't
say
going to
no.
compete.
Yeah, they say no, we ain't doing that. Get rid of these contracts or get rid of these players. And now they are really building up their farm system. So it's like, okay, it's a different route they taking. But yeah, as far as the race themselves, and I knew, the Yankees are not doing well because they're the only team ESPN brings up. They're the only team they bring up, and then they'll bring up a player with Otani, but that's
Otani, they'll
it.
bring up Otani. They'll bring up some Dodgers talk because the Dodgers are like, I'm not gonna lie, they got my favorite player Mookie Betts, and that's my team. Was like they're in the other league, so if I root for them, it's not. I don't feel dirty. I don't feel dirty, but because it's like there are teams at times where like I know I used to root for the Phillies because when I was like a teenager, they had a lot of black players, and Jimmy Rollins. Not only was he a good baseball player, he had a record label and he would advertise in the source. And I thought I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm sold. You my guy. He used to get triples. He won an MVP. I was like, yeah. So I was, even though it was like the Philly thing, for me, the Philly thing only extends to the Eagles. I don't mind the Sixers because I like Joel Embiid. I don't, I rooted for them. They had Ryan Howard. That was one of my favorite players. So I don't mind like seeing guys from other places because in our history, hey man, you're gonna be watching games and just looking for players, and then you're gonna be watching other teams playing the postseason. But we got spoiled a little bit when we made the World Series runs in 2010, 2011. And it sucked that we didn't win it because from a Rangers fans perspective, the people that cover baseball, they was like, hey, the Astros are coming. So we need to win this year and then the very next year, 17 happens. We didn't handle business. They won the World Series. And it's just like we knew it was coming. And it's always been like when I lived in Houston, it was just like I thought Altuve was that guy that everybody has to have an all-star. I didn't take the Astros see. I didn't pay attention at all. Now I come up, I see he's the MVP, and it's just like that's another team that I really hate, really dislike. And so to see them come up, and now it's kind of like, okay, both teams are competitive. This is what we wanted. That's why I messaged Johnny in the chat. It was just like, hey, they're gonna play in Arlington in Labor Day weekend. And I was just like, I'm thinking about going because first of all, I need more Rangers fans there because it's a little too much. It's too much Astros gear in the building,
Or right
and
now, yeah,
so it's
Astro fans
So is
are
this a
just deep.
legitimate rivalry?
it's
Just
getting there.
overall,
It's
Rangers
it's
in Texas. I know with the alignments and everything, you guys never used to play together because I know that Houston used to be in the NL for a lot of years.
yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it is it a legit
It's
rivalry?
starting to because when the Astros start playing better baseball, the Rangers were basically towards the bottom of the division. Now
Right.
they had that time like when they went to the World Series like in 2010, 2011, 11 or 12, I believe. And the Astros
Yeah,
was losing. So basically when both teams was playing their best, the other one was playing their worst basically.
Gotcha.
Now
Okay.
this is the
it's
first
coming.
time where they both, and what's interesting about this one, the Rangers started off hot, but the Astros have been able to keep up right on their heels without their better players, including their best hitter. But now that they came back with Altuve and Adelso Alvarez, now it's like, okay, now, and right now, technically right now, the Astros are half a game
Right.
above, well, it's tied. It's tied.
Yeah,
And the Rangers during the months of like May and June was comfortably in first place.
killing it.
Right.
But yeah, right now it's just the first time really. I mean, the Houston Dallas rivalry is always there.
Yes,
But
that's
unfortunately,
pretty
in
big.
football with the Cowboys and the Texans, it can't really grow because they only play each other once every 4 years.
Right. I would love to play the
For a
Texas.
while. I go back to the 70s. So I remember the Oilers and the Cowboys at the time. Oilers were pretty good. They couldn't beat my Steelers to get they had 2 chances to beat the Steelers to get to the Super Bowl to play. In fact,
Steelers or the Bills.
Now that if the Oilers beat the Steelers in '78, could you imagine the Dallas Cowboys and the Oilers in the Super Bowl 1978 season? That would have been, pretty.
When they lost to the Bills, in the '90s, that was a team that was whispered. I've heard from my older Cowboy fans was like, yeah, that was a team that we were interested to see, but was a little nervous with Moon and what they had.
Oh,
and that would have been classic.
That
would have had generations of fans of both teams.
That's when we lost that 35-3.
Well, they were down 34. Yeah, but they were down. They were up 35-3 at the half, and then I think the Bills came back and
beat them in overtime.
But that was a fun team. That Houston, that run and shoot.
That offense, the run and shoot offense.
But that's the thing. That was the problem. You guys you would score too quick, so defense will come back.
You know what? As a Houston fan, it's always that friend because it was like that with the Rockets. Right. The Rockets never got a chance to play the Bulls because our biggest hurdles were the Jazz and the Supersonics.
Yeah,
we was able to beat everybody else for the most part in the playoffs, but those 2 teams, and then they go on and lose to Chicago, and then that's why. And then you hear the people because when Jordan retired and the Rockets won those, that's why I said, okay, if Rockets could beat the Bulls, and during that first three-peat of the Bulls when they were playing the Rockets were the better matchup.
Right.
But unfortunately, they couldn't get to the finals to play them because their obstacle was the Jazz and the Supersonics.
But then one year they lost to Portland also, right? Portland, I think they lost there as well. So, but let me just ask you, I need to run soon, but I want to ask since I got again the 2 Texas guys on here, what would you argue is the biggest rivalry in Texas sports? So is it Rangers and Astros? Mm-hmm. Is it Dallas and the Texas, or is it Texas Rice? I don't know. What is like the biggest rivalry is that really
sports wise the biggest rivalry is coming back. It's coming back. It's Texas and Texas A&M because I am a part of a university that's a part of the A&M system, but I rock with Texas. And I was just like, look, I rock with Texas, and that's just what it is. With that, when you want to see pure hate, when that comes back, like I want to say, man, that's one thing, traditional wise, I know we got to wrap up, so I'll make this my last statement. I remember when Texas and A&M used to play on the Friday after Thanksgiving. And like I remember it would be the time where my dad would conveniently, from putting up the Christmas lights, hey, let's go get something to eat. Turn on the TV. And then he was like, oh, they play this game every year, son. They this. And he would talk it up. And I was just like, next thing I know, no lights are getting put up. We're watching Texas smash A&M. Having great memories with my dad.
Right. Was that called anything? Was that like the Iron Bowl or whatever? Was that called? Did they call that game?
I forgot what they called because it's been years since they played each other. Well,
right.
And it's just the 2010.
It might be like the Lone Star Battle or something like that.
Yeah. You know what? I don't even know if they really gave it a name. I have to look because it was basically UT versus A&M. It was just always that's how everybody just referred to it.
It's like the state divided. Yeah. Half the players knew each other, and when you see it in the SEC that first year, that I'm not gonna lie, I just got chills for saying it. So that's definitely I cannot wait for that. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Benny.
Should watch some games then.
It was because A&M, because I went to Prairie View. A&M is about 45 minutes north of PV. I remember when they was playing, because they didn't meet at a neutral site. They met at each other's stadiums. When UT came one time to play A&M, I remember me being way down, 45 minutes down the road. They had traffic just literally locked down from A&M, College Station, coming all the way down the road because everybody was trying to get to the game. I never even bothered to try to go up there because it was just too much people. But what's up, Lady Novell? Appreciate you joining in. But yeah, that's the biggest rivalry in the state. But unfortunately, UT got greedy, and they wanted to create that Longhorn network That was the main
And them
factor.
and them got insecure. They could have just
Well,
stayed and made their own thing.
I understood they did not want to
I didn't
go.
like the Longhorn Network.
They didn't want to go play UT and have UT capitalize money-wise by playing on their network. And, they not getting, they say, nah, man, that's actually what ran off A&M. That's what ran off Colorado. That's what ran off Missouri. And now they're going to meet up again. Now, so it's a rivalry renewed. They might as well beat up in.
You guys come late August or whatever. I'm sure you guys are going to have a college kickoff.
Oh yeah,
show. So
I don't know about anything about week 0, but definitely week 1. Week 0, I got to see who's playing.
Week 1, because I'm thinking about hitting the Labor Day Classic. I ain't been in a while. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Oh yeah, I haven't been either.
I've been feeling the itch. I've been feeling the itch. The college is coming around, and it's like that's one weekend before school is really just going. Because I sacrificed some college watching for Bluey and trying to and all of that. So man, I appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody coming up. I know we gotta wrap things up. So Johnny, you got anything else, my man?
No, Mr. Bennett, appreciate it as always coming by and spreading your boxing knowledge after this fight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, Andre, I see you like me mentioning that comment about the Phillies. I see you like that, man. But we got some beef that's coming later on, so we'll get into that as it comes.
We got them last year too, so.
Oh yeah, you did. All right, Shiny, wrap us up, my man.
All right, man. We appreciate everybody for joining in. Once again, we'll see y'all next week.
Peace. Mr. Ben, as always, thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Go. Fire by night and a pillar of vapor by day. Walk through the desert, but when you admire the light, see the villains are paper mache. I'm on the way to the promised land, no contraband. I'm an honest man, I'm coming. I'm your man, I'm set free, playing my part like the Red Sea. Man, I'm from heaven, I'm here with my brother in the volumes 11. Now we're getting